WGO, what's going on, Shaun?
Hey, not too much, Matt. What's going on with you since the last time we met?
Not much. Just went to Tahoe for 4th of July and saw the fireworks and hung out with the family. Stay mentally and healthy and keep going.
I think that's a challenge with this heat. That's a definitely good way. I think we've all been trying to stay mentally fit with this weather. It definitely takes a toll, I think, on us. And
I think that definitely the heat, like,
it
made me tired last week. Every day I was like, didn't want to do anything.
Right.
So last session we were talking about men's mental health and social media and how it could positively affect you and negatively affect you, and also a few other health aspects. But this week I wanted to go more into like the law of attraction.
Okay.
And so I'm going to spring this different kind of thinking on you. It's someone I follow because I just like expanding my knowledge of mindset and just finding ways to be happy. My main goal every day is to be happy, and I think if you're happy, you're healthier. Yeah.
The population I work with, that's one of the things that I see is lacking is that there's goals, but the goals aren't attainable. They're not set up so that people can strive for some kind of joy and happiness.
Right.
And have a tendency to get bogged down. We were talking before we aired about, with depression and things. And if you get out of yourself and you're doing other things, that's one of the keys, like you were just mentioning, that I think can really help.
Yeah. And that's why I really like your brand, Newmarx-su, is because you're focused on being healthy and happy and just trying to find your center.
Yeah.
I guess.
Yeah. Kind of that wax on, wax off point,
Like, there's nothing wrong with that.
No.
Like last week we were saying infinity beyond. This week,
exactly.
It's like wax on, wax off.
The other piece I think too, let's see if I kept my brain, again, it's the heat. I'll blame it on the heat today.
Yeah.
Is when you get out of focus with that, you miss out on a lot of opportunities.
I agree with that.
And I think, again, it's kind of the old adage of where, when you do something for somebody else, a lot of times it takes you out of the horse trough,
Right.
In other words, you get moving and you're doing something.
Yeah.
Again, what I've seen in the past and even in the present, where we're at now, is so many folks get caught up in the immediate I'm missing words today.
Yeah.
Satisfaction. Of getting joy out of their life by not giving back.
Right.
And even if you're in a place of depression, one of the things in my past and the teams that I've worked with, and I'm sure you have too, whether it's working in the restaurant business, whether it's working in the social media business, is when you do things to give back or provide something to somebody, even if they just get a little nugget of whatever it is, that's a big piece. And that's, to me, myself, and maybe for you, is it satisfies my soul and kind of quenches your thirst for that wanting or needing something that you might not have.
Yeah. I totally agree with that. Like, sometimes I get stuck in a rut, like comparing myself to other people, and so-and-so got a new car, or so-and-so went to Hawaii, or they went somewhere, or they won like 10 grand in Vegas on their trip, and they came back with extra money. And you're like, I never win. And you start thinking negative about yourself. And then you're setting yourself up for that attraction.
Right.
And the law of attraction doesn't care if it's negative or positive. Right. So you start with I wish I could have, or I need $10,000 because that would pay off my car or my bills or whatever. And then the next thing you know, you acquire another bill, right? Because you're thinking about how you didn't win the $10,000 and how if you had that, now you're thinking about your bills in a negative way.
One of the things that's interesting, it's funny how every time when we meet, I always seem to read something, or you read something, or we get educated about something that falls within our topic. And so I was on Google, and I need to start saving the authors so I can give them credit. But one of the authors in one of the little feeds was saying that one of the things for affirmations and law of attraction, they were talking about how instead of using the word I, and they had a reasoning behind it, and I'm sure this guest speaker we're going to talk about later on, that we're going to listen to probably will be touching on that. They're saying instead of using the first person I, use your name. So like Matt, or Shaun, wants whatever, or Shaun sees this, or putting your name in there. I can't remember the solid psychology behind it. I'll have to look it up. But there's a reasoning for it. Because I've always used I like you, and I had never heard that before. So I'm going to kind of look at that and investigate that and see what the difference is. And
I have heard of that before, and from what I remember about saying your name, it's a different way. It's a new way for your brain to activate.
That's it.
Because you're always thinking I.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
And so when you say, Matt's going to have a great day to yourself, and you say it 10 or 15 times, then you're like, Matt's going to have a great day. And then you're like, oh, yeah, I'm Matt. So then you start being happy.
And that's probably much better than dropping F-bombs or other kind of bombs, right? Or something.
Than going the other way down the rabbit hole or something.
Yeah, that makes sense. I think that's the point they were trying to...
So I think that's probably part of it. There's probably more into it.
Yeah.
Something that we could ask like ChatGPT or something next time.
Yeah. Matter of fact, I just downloaded that app, so I'm looking forward to messing with it. I just did it today, so...
That one's fun.
Yeah.
You could use GEMINI by Google. It's free, or Copilot is a free one that uses ChatGPT.
Yeah, ChatGPT is, I think, free, right? They didn't charge
it's
you for
free
anything yet.
For their... they have 4 different models.
I can't remember which one I got. I got the one that said Chatbot GPT.
Yeah, that's fine.
Didn't say it was charging you the...
No, that one won't charge you.
Yeah.
But I have the newest one, which is like $20 a month, but I use it for a lot of stuff.
Right.
It creates images and logos and helps me with a bunch of stuff.
Yeah, I'm not there yet, so I'm still learning from you guys. So once I get there.
But that's a good start.
Yeah.
And but so I wanted you to hear this Abraham Hicks.
Okay.
So it's a woman that's been around since the 80s. And she and her husband, Jerry, used to travel around the country or go on cruises and do seminars. And basically what they talk about is that you're a spiritual being, which I totally believe in, that we're all spiritual and we all exist on another plane, and then we come into our bodies. So it's not like once our body dies, we're dead. I don't believe in that.
Yeah, and I don't think, from what we both have discussed, kind of what we believe in, we don't...
Yeah.
We believe in a spiritual being, spiritual person.
There's connections that...
but
and that's even in the law of attraction. You're attracting people to you. Right? So the universe is helping you attract people in your life, whether it be negative or positive, depending on your thought process. And what you're always thinking about and feeling about. And so she basically says that she could pull her spiritual being, which is... So her real name... So her spiritual name is Abram, and so she talks through her to these people, and so people say, "I'm stuck in a rut," and she basically tells you how focusing on the non-physical first will manifest the physical down the road. So that's the gist of her.
So the non-physical and then to the physical.
So basically, when you are, let's say you're in a moment where you're sitting in your car and there's traffic, and you get an urge to honk your horn or
have road rage.
Get a little bit worked up, or someone's bugging you, or someone honks at you, and you're like, "What the?" You're like, "I'm not moving." Or they honk at you at a red light to run a red light,
double fingering.
And you're just like. So then you start attracting more of that type of people around you with more of that aggressiveness, right? Basically, you're started the law of attraction of attracting more traffic and more jerks or assholes to deal with on your way home, right? And then you're going to get home and be all pissed off. And So in her mindset, it's basically tell yourself a general thought of like, today on my drive home, I'm going to hear a good song that I haven't heard in a long time. And then if you leave it general like that, not like I'm going to drive home and make every green light, that's too specific.
Right.
And it probably won't happen. And then once you hit a red light, you're like, see, it doesn't work. Right. But you're attracting that because you're thinking the negative, like, see, it doesn't work. Whereas if you say, I just want to hear a good song on my way home, and then all of a sudden you'll probably hear a song that brings back memories or something. Yeah. So that's the gist of her. Okay. And so she calls your spiritual mind is your vortex.
Vortex, I've heard that term.
Okay. So she wrote a few books on it. And basically you're thinking at a higher level than just going through the day. You're actually conscious of your thoughts. And so that's what she talks about. So I'll play it and then we'll discuss it after that.
Sounds great.
So I'm just going to let the law of attraction choose for me. Or this one, how to mentally control your energy field. Are you ready? Okay.
It is good to come together for the purpose of co-creating. Yes?
Yes.
So when she says co-creating, that means...
Just checking you out.
Oh, wait. Whoop.
Does that mean she's checking you out, huh?
Yeah, she's checking
And
me
of
out.
course you know exactly
So she's basically, we're all together on this non-physical plane, and then we come into our bodies to experience life, to just add to our spiritualness, basically. So everyone's connected, is what she's saying.
what you are wanting. And you have enjoyed ever so much the contrasting process that has brought you to this clear desire? Of course, especially that.
So the contrasting part is when you're not totally happy with what's going on, but say you saw a car that you do want, and then basically, so you say you really like that Corvette or a Tesla or something. Yep. You're launching this rocket of desire into your vortex that we just talked about. And so that's like sending out the signal to the universe that you would like that someday, somehow, and you want to manifest that. So if you send that out, the universe is going to eventually work the components to bring it into your life somehow, someday, if you stay on track.
Right. Kind of like that Corvette that went zipping past me down Blue Ravine that I liked.
Yeah. So it's kind of like those lines. When she says contrast, it's the energy or a situation that you didn't want to experience, but by experiencing, I can't say. It's all tongue. I think there's like Mercury in retrograde or something that screws up communications. Anyway, you're sending out this desire into the universe, and it's going to bring it back to you eventually. So if you could get in alignment with your inner being, it'll happen quicker. Just that's the background of it.
You are enjoying your leading edge perspective?
Yes.
You're beginning to settle into the idea that you were born to focus energy?
Yes.
And that all of the resources of the universe support you, respond to you, answer you. Oh, what a good place you are. And of course, the contrast that sometimes seems to confound you helps you to focus, helps you to clarify. For without a variety of options, some wanted and some not wanted, you could not conclude. In fact, you could not even say what it is you do want if you did not have some reasonable awareness of what you do not want. And as a focuser, you came forth into this leading edge environment knowing it would be so and eager to get to the task of focusing. Not because focusing needed to be done, but because focusing is inevitable. And the satisfaction of focusing is so enormous because in this attraction-based universe, when someone focuses, something happens. In the focusing of your attention, you are concluding individual preferences. So when you conclude an individual preference, source, all manner of energies, answers your conclusion. In your physical human terms, you say, ask and it is given. But sometimes we think that you do not realize that the asking is not a verbal thing. It can be. But the asking is a vibrational thing that sometimes your verbiage matches. In other words, when you say, I want something, it is not your words that are the asking. It's the desire that burns within you. So sometimes a desire for something burns within you. In other words, you'll have clear awareness of what you want, and it's often while you're standing right in the middle of tremendous clarity about what you don't want. What you want and what you don't want are so inextricably tied together. So out of this meshing, molding, mixing process of contemplating what isn't wanted and what is wanted, out of that is born within you a personal preference that is the asking. Sometimes, once that awareness is born within you, whether it's a conscious awareness or a cellular awareness, because there are all levels of consciousness within you who are aware and who are asking, once that awareness is born, Source answers it immediately. Every time, no exceptions. But you, in your human conscious form, sometimes are so aware of the mess you're in. You're sick, there's something happening with your body, your finances aren't going well, your relationship isn't what you want. You are so aware of what is that even though you're asking for something different from what is, you don't let in what you really want because you're so involved in being aware of what you've got. So the best way to explain this is a 3-step process. You ask, Source answers, you let it in. But if you keep asking, if you get stuck in step 1, where is it? Why doesn't it come? Why don't they know what they're doing? Why doesn't it happen? Why don't you do something differently? Why doesn't this go away? Why doesn't this come? As you are so aware of where you are, you hold yourself in this vibrational place where you cannot possibly let in what you're asking for because you are so aware of where you are. And just like your radio signals, you can't offer and receive opposite signals or different signals. When you've got your tuner set to 98.6, you're going to receive 98.6. You're not going to get what's on 101. Even though you might like it better, if your tuner's not set there, you're not going to hear it. This is an electrical universe, and you are electrical receivers. And you must align your vibration to your desire. And when you do, with great ease, those things you desire flow easily to you. So no one or nothing or no situation, no circumstance, there has been nothing ever that has ever prevented you from anything you want. Only you. Sometimes you say, well, it's hard not to notice what is. And we say, it's pleasurable much of the time to notice what is. We're not encouraging you to not notice what is. We're just encouraging you to be more selective about the parts of what is you notice. Here's a multiple choice question. Pick one of the two. Do you choose truth or untruth?
Truth.
Do you choose feeling good or feeling bad?
Good.
Do you choose truth or feeling good?
What would you choose?
I think I would choose truth, because if feeling good is a thing, right, and it's real, then then that's going to be the truth, right?
Right.
Whereas if it was you're not feeling good, that could be your truth too. But the truth is, if you're feeling good, then you're feeling good, if that makes sense.
That makes sense. So, in essence, you choose feeling good.
Yeah.
So, okay.
The corker,
I choose
isn't it?
feeling good.
Me too.
Because as you have trained yourself to be as true as you can be, sometimes you face the reality that is factual, it's truth. There's evidence, there's history, there's an X-ray, there's a past experience. And as you face what is, you hold yourself in vibrational harmony with what is, which means you're out of harmony with what you desire. You cannot get what's on 98.6 if your station is set on 101. So, this workshop is about recognizing that you get to choose. Through time and through your observation of your experience and others, you've developed some vibrational habits. You call them beliefs. We prefer to call them vibrational habits because it makes it easier for you to think about changing them. Someone sat in the hot seat one day talking about some core beliefs. Core beliefs. They sound so core, so unchangeable. And we said, if you want to talk about core beliefs, let's talk about who you really are. You are a lover. You are worthy. You are expecting of all good things. If we're going to talk about core, let's really get back to the core of that which you are. Let's not talk about that stuff you picked up along this physical trail. Some of it serves you, some of it doesn't. In fact, most of it serves you. We are not wanting to open you up and take out everything that you've learned along your way, a sort of lobotomy procedure. Because there is so much that you have picked up that serves you. Look at the way you live. Your lifestyle is wonderful. Your expectations of well-being are among the best that we see worldwide. But you do have some expectations or habits of thought that you've picked up that aren't serving you and that do not belong within your vibrational pattern. And in most cases, you don't even know how they got there. You just keep perpetuating them sort of because it is. It's like laying your hand on the hot stove and saying, this is really painful. And someone's saying, then why don't you remove your hand? And you say, I don't know, I'm just used to doing it this way. And they say, but doesn't it hurt? And you say, yeah, real bad. And they say, well, why don't you just take your hand off the stove? And you say, well, actually, it's a family thing. My whole family does this. In fact, everybody I know does this. And there have been a few who have removed their hands, but they've been shunned by the community. And so I think it's better to just suffer. What we're wanting you to realize is that you've picked up some patterns of thought that we could call dominant vibrations or dominant thoughts. So when you think about some major subjects in your life, like the subject of dollars, when you think about dollars, however it comes up, whether it's receiving the bills in the mailbox or being in a beautiful place where you're wanting to buy something lovely, when the subject of dollars comes up, does it feel to you, the feeling that moves through you, does that feeling feel like freedom and fun and adventure? Or does the feeling that moves through you feel like worry and hardship and struggle? You can tell right away. You probably have some of all of those feelings, but you know which ones are more often there. When you think about your dominant relationship, does it feel like freedom or bondage? Does it feel like fun or struggle? You can tell which thought you've practiced. When you think about your physical body, do you feel flexible and vital and full of energy? Or do you feel tired and lethargic? Are you optimistic or do you worry? What is your dominant feeling about your body? We want you to sort of pay attention to the way you feel as we're moving through this day, because we want you to come to the realization that the reason that you feel whichever way you feel is because, for whatever reason, you've been practicing that way longer and it has become the more dominant vibration. So you are now, because of law of attraction, more likely and more easily able to get there. The reason that the vibration that is dominant on those subjects or any subject is the dominant one is because you've activated that vibration more often. And by activating it, we only mean you gave your attention to it. So we say, you have something going in your experience that you don't want. And we say it's because you keep activating that thought. And you say, well, how do I deactivate that thought? And we say, you can't. You cannot deactivate a thought. Then what do? If I've got a thought activated, how do I not activate it? And we say, you activate another thought. Because when you try to deactivate that thought, whatever it is, you don't deactivate it, you activate it. So you have to turn your attention to what you would like to activate. And by giving your attention to it, this is activated and this isn't. So the balance of thought within you, those thoughts that are dominant thoughts, are only the thoughts that you have activated more often. And what begins to happen as you deliberately activate thoughts and develop a vibrational resonance within your own vibratory circulation, so to speak, what happens is thoughts that don't match this more and more dominant vibrational pattern that you're developing, you don't have access to anymore. So things you used to think about and worry about a lot become less a part of your thought process. Now, it's possible that you might run up against someone who will activate it again, temporarily. But those experiences will become fewer and fewer and farther apart until before you know it, you will begin to deliberately, consistently activate vibrations by your choice. Sometimes we hear you, or Esther hears you as she is working on editing a tape or listening to something after the fact, and she will hear you talking about issues that you have lived, sometimes very powerful issues when you were younger. And today, they're still so present in your vibration. Even Esther will find something activated within her that really has nothing to do with her now life. But something will stir it up, and it is so uncomfortable. And then she got all huffed up one day, and she said, Abraham, I can damn well choose my own vibrations. And we said, well, we had hoped you would feel more positive about it than that. But it is a very good first step. In other words, step one, you know what you don't want, which is how you know what you do want, which is your awareness of what you're asking for. So the predominant theme of this gathering here today, that which will assist you more than all other things put together, is if we can help you to understand that you can choose your own vibrational patterns. And when you do choose your own vibrational patterns, you are the deliberate creator of your own experience. The effort that we would ask you to make is not about trying to control your experience, but instead about allowing the well-being that is natural to you to be your experience. Now, here's the basis that you just have to get. We will not leave here until you get it. This is the most important thing that we could ever give to you. Well-being wants you. Well-being is the order of this universe. You have to know that when you look at the way your planet spins in its orbit. Don't you think that's big? Don't you think that's big? And don't you think it's worth thinking about? In other words, think about this platform on which you are creating. Think about the food process. Think about the environment. Think about this environment in which you are focused. It's extraordinary and it's abundant with well-being. And while there may be pockets where well-being has been temporarily disallowed by the activation of thoughts that don't allow it, it does not change the reality that well-being is huge. Well-being wants you.
Saying something about how it used to do something for you?
Well, this, Abraham Hicks was very deep, and I had a philosophy teacher in college. I can't remember the person's name, but he was kind of a character, and so you'd have all these people in here, spewing all kinds of BS, wanting to sound good. Yeah. He would always, mess with us using Descartes and whoever else, Aristotle, Socrates, all these different things. And so I remember one day he comes in and he's like, hey, whoever has the best answer gets to leave class. They don't have to stay in class today. And so then I had this one kind of know-it-all that sat behind me and was always, just blah, 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 blah. Always had an answer for anything. And I said, I got the answer. And he's like, what? And I said, I want to get out of here because this class sucks. He's like, oh, that's a good answer. So you get to go. Matter of fact, you don't have to come back to the next two classes. And I'll, And I think when I ended up leaving that class, he gave me like an A. I'm like, how did that happen? But it's kind of that
like
thing,
the law of attraction. Like, you're positive that you wanted to be out of the class.
And then everybody else was pissed off because they had to stay in class. I remember I walked out, I was laughing, and he was laughing.
Yeah.
And it was just that,
Yep.
So
yeah,
that's it.
two examples that I could say that about using her mindset technique is for a long time I wanted to have like a podcast studio like this, and I even had it in a storage unit for a year, 2 years. I had this setup in there with battery packs, and I would have the lights, and I just had one camera for a while, and then I added another and another one, and then kept expanding the equipment. And then I was like, it'd be so cool to just have a podcast studio. And then I've also wanted to, I love having convertibles. So when we had our Hannah, we had a Miata convertible, just like a hardtop, and but we were doing IVF, and because we're older parents, so I sold off a lot of stuff to pay for that stuff, and we got lucky and got pregnant the first time around. And then I was like, once she's 3 and we pay off like the medical bills for all that stuff, then we'll just continue the payment as a car payment and get like another convertible, but for 4 people.
Right.
And so within like just out of the blue, we were like, oh, let's just go look. And then we saw one, and it was like the perfect price, the perfect color. And then I called the bank, and it was like, it flowed with, like, I didn't even have to do effort.
Yeah, no, I totally know what you're saying.
And then the next day, our landlord for the pizzeria owns about 10 buildings down over here in Sutter Street on Old Town Folsom. And so I asked him, I'm like, hey, do you have like a dark dungeon room that's just 4 walls and like 10 by 10? He's like, yeah, call my property manager. It's right up the street. I'm like, no way. And then, boom, got this spot.
And no whips and chains, right? In the dark room.
Yeah, it was just, and all this stuff just popped up with, like, I didn't even think about, I wasn't like actively looking for a place to have the podcast studio, and I wasn't actively looking for a car yet. But it was like, we made our last payment on Hannah's getting pregnant and all that stuff. And literally within the next week, we found the car. And then we didn't have to make any payments for like 90 days. And it was just like all the stuff just unrolled itself.
Almost kind of like the law of attraction.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
No, it was
kind of what Abraham Hicks was saying.
Law of attraction. And then I started writing books on it, and just focus on that every day. I don't focus on what I want. I focus on the law of attracting and what I'm attracting to myself. So I keep those thoughts present. Or what am I attracting right now? Is it negative or is it positive? And if it's negative, I change my thought. Like I do that pivot that I was talking about. Just change it 1 degree. So instead of, I wish I was in air conditioning right now, I'd be like, oh, it'd be nice to be at the beach right now.
There you go.
Change it to a happy thought.
Yeah.
Oh, this weather is perfect for the beach. See the difference? Like,
yeah.
Oh, it's so hot. This sucks. Or this would be perfect if I was at the beach. Like it just changes a happier thought, and then you're going to attract happier things.
Pretty deep. There's a lot of nuggets in there. I think from the beginning when she was talking about basically how our thought process controls us, right?
Yeah.
And she talked about in the universe sometimes when things happen, what I got out of it is basically don't frown upon it, the negative experience, but it's part of the journey.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. So, and I think being aware, the other part that I could identify, I think we all can identify with is, you ask for something and then you keep asking, right?
Right.
Like it's like overkill, right?
Yeah.
Because if the universe, according to the way she's presenting it to me at least, is that things are there. It's almost like she's saying things are predestined. It's a matter of tapping into it, right?
Right. Yeah. Changing your frequency to allow it. And you're going to let it in.
And it makes me think, I think the first time we met, when we talked on the show here, we talked about, I was talking about the frequencies, and there's a lot of sound engineering now, frequencies that engineers are using, and they use that to help the person connect to their subconscious.
Right.
So when she was talking about the other pieces, I'm thinking of, again, we have 2 parts of us. We have our awake part, which we are here now, right? In the moment. But then at night, we have our subconscious. So a lot of times our consciousness now trickles over into our subconsciousness. And so our subconscious is very vulnerable from what she's saying. And so by changing our mindset and our self-talk, that's going to carry into when we're sleeping, right? So even with the sound vibrations and the vibrations, when you have something sometimes at nighttime that you can listen to, maybe it's a music thing or a frequency. I can't remember what the numbers, it was like 365 or something like that, right? Yeah. And so these frequencies are finding now really impose on the subconscious and help it counteract the conscious, right? Yeah. Or I hope I said subconscious if I said it right. So it's like this constant battle. It's like a fight, right? Like a Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde kind of thing. Yeah. Where you got good doctor, bad doctor, and it's the same thing I think with our minds. But they're finding this even in the neuroscience, and again, that's probably something down the road we could talk about. But it all ties in. Yeah, it really does. And actually, I found a neurotherapist that I'm going to try to ask her to be on the show. Oh, nice. Eventually. Nice, so yeah. Down the road, be sure to check back for that. Okay, yeah. There's one of the other things she was touching upon too is she's almost ahead of her time. You said this was in the 80s when they did this? It's 80s until now. She's been doing it for almost 40 years now. She was a pioneer then, I'm guessing, of this stuff. She's way ahead of her time. Yeah, so this is like the intro to her thought process, and then if you actually listen to more on YouTube, there's segments everywhere. Like she wants people to like share her message and stuff. But basically she's like in other ones, people actually get on stage and tell her problem, and she helps you walk through it. Right. The process of the thought process, how to get out of it, how to refocus your energy. Yeah. So she'll, if you take you're worried about money, and she'll say, okay, you know how she asked you if you want truth or good feeling. Do you like feeling bad or feeling good? And she's like, ask you the right questions. Yeah, and getting you set up, getting your mind and your subconscious set up for. Yeah, so you start asking yourself the right questions instead of saying, "There's no way I could get that money." Instead, saying, or let's see, basically like she also talks about if you set your mind track in the morning, if you just over 17 seconds, if you just say ask yourself how you feel. Say, I feel good. And then ask yourself, how do I feel? And then say, I feel great. And then ask yourself how you feel. And I feel like today is going to be a good day. And then ask yourself, and continue that for over 17 seconds. Your mind automatically starts triggering happier thoughts. Okay. If you continue something for more than 17 seconds. And if you could do it for 69 seconds, then you'll even do last longer. And then if you train yourself every day to do that kind of stuff, then it's really easy. If you notice yourself starting to go down a negative path to start attracting stuff, then you could turn it off and just refocus yourself by asking yourself certain questions. So it's kind of interesting. So I've been following her for about 5 years now. It's almost like mind isometrics. Like the other day when I was working out, I was using isometrics, and there's different kinds. There's yielding isometrics. There's time static contractions. There's all different kinds. So it's almost like you're building resistance, right? Like you're strengthening your physical and your mental and your mental mind. And so that's what you're doing. It's kind of the same concept. Yeah. So how does that work for you when you're working out and stuff? When I'm working out, usually what I do, I'm not really doing self-talk. I'm basically looking at trying to increase my resistance over my time. So I don't lift weights. I just do holds. So I'll do there's different, like I said, different kind of isometric holds. So I do what's called a time static contraction. So you might use a weight, or if you just do body weight like I do, you just hold it. So you might hold something, you might take a deep breath in and hold it in for 25 seconds for the first set. The second set you might do 30 seconds. You might increase it to more. So you're doing resistance, right? Except you're just not using a weight. You're still might be doing concentric, but you're holding the position. Yeah. Okay. And and that's kind of what she's saying. You're holding that position, and you're not getting off the line, and you're staying focused. Right. Yeah, and she also wants you to just not focus on the focusing, but just let yourself feel happy or find happy thoughts. Just basically, like Tony Robbins says, just pivot. If you just pivot
by a degree, you could find the right road, you know?
Right. It's kind of like that old adage that the Buddhists did. I was listening to something, I think, on YouTube where, they have the fork in the road, you go this way or that way.
Yeah.
And I think the same thing that's what she's basically saying, that once you say what it is that the universe is predestined you for or whatever, then don't keep, having a tit
just
fit
let
over
the universe
let it go,
start working for you.
Yeah, just do it. And when you were saying don't focus on it all the time, it's already happening, so just go with it and let it happen naturally or organically.
Because your mind will subconsciously connect you with, if you believe in the law of attraction, you believe in God or higher power or non-physical form, it's those components are working to attract that to you. So that's what the kinetic energy or the energy that we're all sharing is doing.
Right.
So you don't, because you're subconsciously already thinking about that Corvette or the 10 grand that someone won, or maybe winning the lottery or something like that.
Well, I think the other part too, you could even take away from Christianity. There's that one verse that says you have not because you have asked not. And a lot of people, I think, get that wrong because there's more to it than just that little phrase.
Right.
And I think a lot of this, law of attraction and the universe and things like that are kind of similar in the sense of that I use the word predestined. I think we're predestined for things, right?
Yeah.
It might not be, I'm not saying monetarily like it might be, wealth or money, but there's things that are there. And I think when a person goes about it the right way and isn't like, you're not constantly begging for stuff, right? Like, you're like a little kid wanting more candy, like my grandkid, you know which one I'm talking about.
Yeah.
I want more. And it's like, no, you've had enough. And I think that's kind of the same concept. It's like, you said it once, you said it twice. You don't need to say it 4 more times.
Right.
And then I think that also with that, from what she was saying, what you were saying, I think you have to have the right intents for things too.
Yeah. And, but basically she just wants you to get in a good mind space and continue that. And by doing that, you're attracting more good things without even trying.
Well, yeah, you're like one of those lights where the flies are attracted to,
Yeah, exactly.
Instead of getting zapped, they, are flying away and they're happy because they made it another day without getting zapped by the bug zapper.
Yeah, you're not going to have. So I think there's a lot of aspects to take from her mindset. And then in the future episode, I want to talk about like Tony Robbins.
Okay.
And then his mindsets and stuff like that. And then we'll continue to do different people that are in that same kind of field to help you mentally prepare for the future and attract a better life.
Yeah. Well, and I think that's really needed now. I mean, like I said, people, it's interesting. Again, if you read different articles, they keep wanting to go back 4 years ago to COVID. And I'm like, okay, COVID's over. We got to move forward now. Yeah. And I think that's the key with what she was saying again. It's like, you're playing good cop, bad cop with your body and your mind. Your active mind now that we're awake right now as we're speaking is the one that seems to do the most damage to our subconscious when we're asleep. And then we're sleeping. It's just like basically your daytime conscious is like, F you subconscious, we're gonna make you, not achieve what you are, destined to achieve.
Right.
And so,
or we're going to slow you down.
Yep.
It's going to sidetrack you. So you tracked. If your predominant thing is you're worried about COVID, then you're going to attract it.
Or or
you're going to touch someone, touch something, get it. Or
I have a relative and I know sometimes when they do something, they'll like, they'll say their name, you dummy, what did you do that for? And I'm thinking, how come they're saying that,
Yeah.
And then they achieve that dumbness and do something dumb,
Yeah. And
so it's kind of the same thing.
Yeah, exactly.
So self-talk is huge. That was a lot of stuff.
It's pretty deep.
You
could talk about a lot of aspects of it.
Yeah.
My main goal for today was just the mental aspect of it, just to open. Maybe it could help someone that's listening or watching the
I think it's a great introduction to.
Like and then maybe that could help someone down the road. If they could start following Abraham Hicks.
Yeah.
But I was just introducing it because I listen to her.
Yeah.
I listen, like if I get off mindset, like if I get in a weird mindset, for a while, like I listened every day to like 1 or 2 in the morning, and it would just get my mind thinking like, how do I feel? I feel good. Is today a good day? Yeah.
That's
so
probably
far.
why you're always smiling. I don't think I've ever seen this guy not smile before.
No,
so.
like that's what my friend. We make the movies. You're in the new movie that we're making right now, and I'm a serial killer in the movie, right? But in the first one that we made, we're trying to figure out. I was trying to be like angry and like brooding and like kind of like have a demeanor about me.
Yeah.
And my friend Quinn, that's the producer and helping direct it and create the movies, he's like, dude, you're too happy. You can't, you're not a bad guy. Like,
that's funny.
I'm like, well, I could be that crazy psycho that's like
you should
smiling.
try to get like those fake buck teeth or something. That might be different.
Right?
Put those on there, have the gangly teeth hanging out.
Something like that.
Yeah.
But so I just made my character a happy serial killer / mafia, like bad guy, you know?
Yeah, well,
so it started to work. The second movie we made, you saw more that side of me, but I still smiled. And then the third movie, I had to stop someone because I was feeling frustrated and I had a bad bowling game.
So don't mess with Mateo, right?
Right? Yeah. Don't mess with Mateo. And then soon your character is going to develop in the movie. So we'll see how that develops.
Okay, we'll see what happens.
And then, is there anything else you want to touch base on today?
So I think Abraham Hicks has a lot of information, obviously. You said almost 40 years. That's a long time.
Lots of recordings like that. And there's probably about maybe 200 channels on YouTube that people just redo her content.
Yeah, make your head blow up. That's a lot.
Yeah, and she allows it. She wants people to share her message, and just as long as you give her credit.
Right. I think it's good that she's doing that. I think, like you mentioned, some of the other, like Tony Robbins, and there's a lot of other folks.
Yeah.
And I think that's good. I think that's good that she's willing to open up and share that with people. And, you know, if you have an open mind, you can get, like I said, little nuggets or bites out of that relate to you.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, next week we'll talk about Tony Robbins has like a priming routine in the morning. And then you were talking about your routines in the morning. So we can compare some notes on those. And then
sounds like a plan.
We'll keep this episode a little shorter than our last rant. But if you want us to have longer episodes, leave us a comment below. Or if you think Abraham Hicks is full of crap, let us know. Or if you think this was a good episode, let us know, and be sure to hit the like and subscribe. So
another person we might want to consider on listening to too, there's a woman out there, if you haven't heard her name, is Mel Robbins.
I think I've heard of her. I've
really
never
good
listened.
too. Yeah, she's really good. She's a lot into the positive talk and self-talk and
we'll have to check it out.
Yeah. So it sounds like we're going to have a big old laundry list here before we know it, right?
All right. Well, stay tuned for more. If you're interested in hearing about positive people in your life, stay tuned.
Yep.
Have a good day.
Yep. Thanks for your time.
All right.